I love the Apple Watch as a first phone for my kids. For elementary or middle school kids, the Apple Watch is way more appropriate as a phone than a full smartphone, in my opinion. There are some accessories that make your kids' use of the Apple Watch even better. I want to talk about the accessories that I got for my kids. I gave my kids an Apple Watch in 6th grade in anticipation of them having to walk to school in junior high. Now, first off, some accessories will be specific to both the model and size of your Apple Watch. So let's take a look at how to find that out. All right, so the way that you're going to check what version of the Apple Watch your child has is you're actually going to use the Apple Watch app on your iPhone. So you're going to come into the Apple Watch app and make sure that it's connected to your child's Apple Watch. And then you're going to go to General and to About. And then you'll notice this model number here. And if you tap on that, it's actually going to change to one with a letter followed by 4 digits. And that's the one that we're going to use to check on Apple's website, which will show us the actual specific generation of Apple Watch and the size of the Apple Watch. And we'll look at that next. So then you'll go to Apple's website here. I'll include a link to this in the description. You're going to find your model number. Now what you can do is in the browser, if you're using a Windows-based computer, you can hold down the Control key and press F. And that brings up a search box here. We can type in the model, A2353. That'll take us directly on the page to that specific model. If we scroll up a little bit, we can see that this is the Apple Watch SE, the GPS Plus Cellular, and that it was the 40mm case. So once you know the model and the size, that's the information you need to be able to search for these accessories. I purchased mine from Amazon, and I'll include links in the description for the specific ones I'm talking about. Okay, so first up, let's talk about the watch band. The band that comes with the Apple Watch is typically this kind of rubbery one that has kind of a traditional clasp. What I got for my kids instead is kind of a stretchy and adjustable one. It comes in a multi-pack on Amazon with lots of different color options. This is great because your kid can swap out the colors depending on their mood, or if you have multiple kids with Apple Watches, you can share the different colors among your kids. Now, this is great because it's adjustable. The younger kids don't have to fumble with the sort of traditional clasp mechanism on a watch band. They can easily just slip it onto their wrist and slip it off when they need to. They can adjust it so it's not too tight or too loose. And I found that to be really helpful with my kids. The next thing we'll talk about is a protective case for the watch. Now, I prefer the Spigen brand. I've used them for my own iPhone cases and for Apple Watch protectors, and I found them to be really good quality at a really great price. So for my particular model and size, there's a couple different options from Spigen. This one's kind of a rubbery, kind of black, so it can make it look a little more ruggedized. And then this is just a very simple kind of clear option. It doesn't detract from the aesthetic of the watch. These are really easy to kind of snap onto the watch and take off. You need to have the band off in order to do that. This comes with a protective layer. It also kind of on the side protects the side button. This one similarly, it doesn't directly have the protective layer over the glass parts, but it does surround the frame in a protective way. It has a protective cover for the button on the side. It also gives a little more to the back of the watch against your child's skin. Next up, let's talk about power. So this is, again, by Spigen. This is kind of a stand for charging the Apple Watch. It's just the basic stand. It's fairly inexpensive. It actually utilizes the existing charging cable that comes with the Apple Watch. So you snap it into the back here, and then the Apple Watch can sit on your nightstand or somewhere in the kitchen perhaps. You just slip the Apple Watch right on top of it, and it's uses the magnetic and can sit really nicely. It can change modes into the time being more accessible on like a little nightstand clock. So I really like this. I also use it for myself. Now, speaking of charging cable, Apple includes one with the Apple Watch, but you'll want to consider purchasing an extra one just in case. These things the wires can get frayed. the connectors can kind of come loose over time. You also want to potentially consider additional charging blocks. I actually really like the Anker brand for these types of things. And then lastly, what I'll talk about is on-the-go charging. So I got these sort of little keychain chargers for my kids that they can keep with their backpack, just in case for some reason the watch didn't get charged the night before and it's running low. I wanted to make sure that there's always enough power for my kids to be accessible if I need them to be. So these can be, recharged with a USB-C cable. They can very nicely fit, and they do use kind of the MagSafe connection. Now, one thing to keep in mind with this is that the magnetic connection is not very strong, so these can pretty easily slip off, especially if they're inside of a backpack. You definitely don't want to leave this dangling outside of a backpack with the watch on it, because it's very likely to fall off. But if it were just sitting on a table like this, it can get a nice little charge before too long. And I think it's a great little option. Now, if you haven't gotten an Apple Watch for your kid and you're thinking about it, I have a video that shows you completely how to set it up with all the screen time parental controls. I'll link to that in the description below. Let me know in the comments what you think about these accessories and if there's any other that you've used with your kid that you like. And thanks for watching.